It had been a year since the confrontation between Eric Rains and Matthew Cain on a Jakarta bridge in Indonesia. Cain and Shelley Lawson stayed for a week trying to get confirmation that Rains died that night. No body was ever pulled from the river, and there were never any reports of an American man going to a hospital with a gunshot wound. The Project Specter agency went forward with the belief that Rains was still alive. Director Sanders would not allow the file to be closed on Rains until he showed up dead. Finding him again would prove to be problematic, though. As he had done 6 months before, he effectively disappeared. There were no sightings, no chatter among informants, and no signs of where he went. He dropped off the grid. Knowing that Rains was somehow involved with Andrei Kirilenko, the decision was made to put more pressure on Kirilenko and put him out of business. In doing that, if Rains was still involved with the Russian arms dealer, then he would eventually turn up along the way. In the year they followed Kirilenko, there was never any indication that Rains was still in the picture. The agency got wind of a meeting taking place, courtesy of an informant, between Kirilenko and leaders of a Syrian rebel group near the Israeli border. He was trying to sell them several $1 million worth of weapons. When the agency first heard of Kirilenko, he was a small player in the game. In the years since then, he had increasingly upped his standing in the arms business. It was quite the rapid ascension for the Russian, who used a mix of intelligence, money, and violence to aid in his rise to the top. It was decided that since there was still no leads on Rains, the time had come to eliminate Kirilenko. The assignment for killing him fell to Cain. His mission was to stake out the building that the meeting was going to take place in. If the shot was there, he was to take it. The caveat was that he was only to take the shot if he was sure he could escape. There were likely to be a lot of men on both sides. Kirilenko wasn't wanted badly enough to put an agent's life at risk if the odds weren't completely in his favor. His profile had been raised enough that they were sure they'd get eyes on him soon enough. As the meeting drew closer, Cain took his position on the roof of a nearby building. There was a black tarp that he snuggled under, concealing his position. The meeting was to happen in a building directly across from him. He waited for an hour before the two sides started to appear. First, the Syrian rebels showed, the leaders going inside to wait as some of their men stood guard at the door. About 5 minutes later, a group that included Kirilenko appeared. He got out of a jeep and stood next to it as he talked to a few of his men. Cain surveyed the situation and knew he could take the Russian out fairly easily. He counted the rest of the men and didn't think he would have much of a problem. He figured he could take out between 10 and 15 men before they even realized where the shots were coming from. Cain looked through the scope on his rifle as he took aim. He suddenly pulled his head up and looked past the rifle, trying to look at the scene with his own eyes. He looked back through the scope and took his aim away from his target and located another man a few feet away from him. A weird feeling came over him, startled to see that Eric Rains was there. It was a complete shock to find him. "Talk to us, Cain," Lawson said from her remote location in Israel. She was watching a satellite feed of the situation in her hotel room, along with Sanders, who was watching and listening back in the room in New York. "I've got eyes on Kirilenko," Cain responded. "Can you take him?" "Yes." "Take it when you're ready." "There's a complication," Cain said. "What's wrong?" "Rains is here." Sanders quickly interjected. "Are you sure that's him?" he asked. "Positive. He hasn't changed a bit." "Hold off on Kirilenko," Sanders said. "Wait for Rains. If you get a clear shot, you take it. If you get the opportunity to get Kirilenko after that, then go ahead. If not, no big deal. We'll get him some other time. Rains is now your new target." "Roger that." Cain shifted positions and put his sights on Rains. He couldn't believe that he was actually there. Sweat started pouring off Cain's head, and he wiped it off with his sleeve. He put the scope on Rains, who walked behind a few cars. Cain waited a few seconds to get a clear shot on him. Lawson started biting her nails as she waited for Cain's voice to tell them the mission was a success. Getting confirmation that Rains was still alive sent her for a jolt. Ever since that night on the bridge, she clung to the belief that he was killed.